Microsoft Teams is helping a bicycle company reinvent the way that they work.
We make low-maintenance bicycles
for everyday riders.
Once the pandemic hit, we had nobody coming into the showroom, so we started doing virtual visits via Microsoft Teams.
We're able to see 2 or 3-fold the amount of customers we used to be able to see. All of a sudden, we could open up our showroom to customers around the world. I really think it's going to set a standard for retail moving forward.
Learn more at Microsoft.com/Teams.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, LB and Clerks Top 10.5.
All right. Yay! Yeah, I love that. That is one of my favorite jingles that we have. And we're back. We're going to do some top 10.5.
So this is different subjects. It's our top 10.5
right.
Blank. Last time we had a question about how do I choose what to watch during the quarantine when everything's available.
Binge watching.
So we put together our top 10.5 binges.
Yeah.
Of just all different, that was podcasts and movies and TV. I don't know if there were movies. Anyway, there were.
There were movies, yeah. Trey Parker movies.
Hold on. Let me go listen to that episode real quick so I don't give you any misinformation. This time, Clark actually came up with this idea, which is we are going to give you our top 10 episodes.
10.5.
Oh, 10.5. That's right. That's what makes ours different.
Yeah, we're special.
Our top 10.5 favorite TV episodes.
Right. I'm thinking these are the shows you've been stuck in the house for a year. You don't know what to do anymore. You're not in the mood to watch an entire series. You just want to have a quick little 30-minute, hour-long, maybe even 2-hour-long bit of entertainment that you just know is going to be fun. You don't have to search for what's the best episode, what's the worst episode. These are 100% guaranteed by LB and Clark to be fun episodes that you'll enjoy.
Some of mine aren't that fun.
Well, fun, not funny.
Yes. Okay, good.
Right?
Good.
Fun episodes to watch that really, even the more serious episodes that you picked, they're very influential.
Yes.
Right? They were very it's good to watch regardless.
Yeah, and we're not saying these are the best shows of all time.
Right.
These are the best episodes. These are shows that we loved, and something about an episode just stuck in our brains.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, this would be fun to give. And if people really liked this list, or if people responded to it, we could probably come up with another couple of these lists just because we have such a wide knowledge of TV.
Yeah, the proper way to say it is we have wasted a significant portion of our lives.
Yeah, there's that too.
Watching television. All right, let's start. I think you're up first.
All right. Oh, am I up first? Yes. Number 1. We're starting out with one of my favorite. This was actually really, really fun. So South Park. I love South Park. Yeah. Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I love them. They were really successful with the show, with South Park. So much, in fact, that right around 2000, a little before, they were asked to do a movie. And they did a full South Park movie.
Was that Bigger, Longer, and Uncut?
Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
I love that movie.
Such a good movie. If you haven't watched that, it's really worth it. It's really fun. But they finished that. They thought they had a good time, from what I've heard, making the movie. And there was a couple of seasons later in the show, and they wanted to do a sequel, but they didn't have the time to make a movie because they were too busy working on the actual show.
Yeah. So
I think Trey Parker said, why don't we just write a movie and we can split it up into 30-minute segments and make it a TV
3 episodes.
Show.
Yeah.
We just make them episodes of our show. And that turned into Imagination Land.
Yeah.
And Imagination Land is just some of the most amazing comedy. It's spoofing. It's like every character that you can ever think of: Rainbow Bright, Strawberry Shortcake, E.T., Mickey Mouse, any fictional character you can think of is in this show, where the kids are taken to Imagination Land, and it's kind of this crazy alternate reality where all of the characters that have been created by us exist and live.
Yeah.
And it's, the lion from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
That's what I remember from it.
And Superman. It's just all these fictional characters living together in this one world. And it's just so fucking creative.
I remember it. There was within the last 2 or 3 years, I watched all of South Park. I binged all of South Park from episode 1 through season 16 or something. It was wherever it was at that point.
Sure.
I was up to date.
Okay.
And I took a lot in over a short period of time.
Yeah.
But I do remember that. But I remember Aslan from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe most.
Yeah. Because, I don't know about you. I always kind of gravitate towards Butters in that show.
I love Butters.
Butters is like the secret hero of South Park, and especially Imagination Land. He's like the user.
Yeah.
He's the one character that the imagination. What am I trying to say? The imaginary characters that are surrounding him turn to him as if he's going to be able to like create more characters all around him. But
I do like that we've just invented imaginational, which is like imagine and educational together.
That's exactly right.
So I like that. All right,
That's
that
pretty
is a great first choice.
Thank you.
My next one is going to be great for everyone over 40. And Clark has some older shows too, but my favorite show of all time is Moonlighting.
Yes. Bruce
Moonlighting
Willis.
is awesome. I almost said awful. It was awful. It's my favorite one. It was where the world got to know who Bruce Willis was.
Yep.
And the world got to enjoy Sybil Shepherd.
That's right.
Because she was already a thing.
Right. But wasn't she known for doing some naked movie, right? I thought
she was. Are you thinking of the Blue Lagoon?
I was thinking of like, I don't know, 9.5 weeks or something.
No, that's Kim Basinger. She was in the Last Picture Show.
Oh, that's
she was
right.
She was an actress. She was a model.
Right.
And then she was also in the Last Picture Show. She had done some acting, but this was, I think, her first kind of starring role.
That's right.
And she's also in the movie Chances Are, which I really love, where Robert Downey Jr. plays the reincarnation of her husband that got hit by a car.
Okay.
I love that movie.
Right.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Moonlighting, there's a detective agency. Sybil Shepherd owns it. She's a little uppity. She's not a Karen, but she's like, meow.
Right.
And then, Bruce Willis just like pops off the screen. He's just singing and rhyming and just a real cat and really funny, but smart. It really was like, oh my God, who's this guy?
Yeah.
So it was a very fun show, very funny, but also they were solving, they were detective agencies.
Right.
So there was like some drama and some darkness and
Murder
intrigue.
mysteries.
Exactly. And the relationship between the two of them was just like they hated each other. They were always sniping. They were this and that, but they were best friends. And it was like the ultimate will they, won't they, will they, won't they.
Right.
And when they willed, it was just like super electrically charged. It's an episode called I Am Curious Maddie.
Okay.
And I am curious, ... Maddie.
Okay.
And
that was Sybil Shepherd's character was Maddie.
Yeah, her name was,
Madison.
Madam. Yeah, I guess I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was Madison.
This is my favorite show. I have no idea. But it was just so exciting when they finally hooked up, and then predictably less exciting after. So, but I just remember, and I was young.
Yeah.
I mean, Moonlighting's on in the 80s. I was maybe 11 or 12.
That's right.
I wasn't the key demographic for Moonlighting, but I just loved it. Bruce Willis was so funny.
Yeah.
And it was just great. So that's one of the ones that's always stuck out in my head.
Yay. I love Moonlighting. Moonlighting is really fun. I also have an older submission for this as well. And that is from the Dick Van Dyke Show.
You love Dick Van Dyke.
I do. I love the Dick Van Dyke Show. I used to grow up, when I grew up, my dad would put on the Dick Van Dyke Show every day while we were eating dinner. He would have, 7 or 8 VHS tapes that he recorded just.
I thought you were going to say 7 or 8 TVs.
Oh, no. We had tons of these VHS tapes that he just ripped episodes off of, Nick at Night or something. And we would just watch constantly Dick Van Dyke Show. But it's also really relevant right now because of WandaVision. WandaVision is the biggest thing right now. Everyone's loving WandaVision. And the first episode, they did just a spectacular tone spoof of the Dick Van Dyke Show. It really wasn't, it was more spoofing Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie, where you have the witch that's kind of hiding in the
Yeah.
suburban area. But the tone of the show, the feel of the show, the look of the show was all Dick Van Dyke. It was so fun to watch knowing Dick Van Dyke so well. And I thought this would be a good time to maybe throw out there. If you've never watched an episode of Dick Van Dyke, I think they're all on Hulu right now.
Yeah.
And you can go and watch one. This is a fun episode to watch. The episode that was in WandaVision the other day was all about the walnuts. That one is a really fun episode, and it's a good one to watch, especially if you're watching WandaVision. But the episode that I picked is actually called Uniofts.
Okay.
And Uniofts was such a fun episode where Rob, I don't know if the listeners out there have never seen the show before, Dick Van Dyke plays Rob Petrie, who is the head writer of a comedy show. And his other two writers, Maury Amsterdam and Rosemarie, they've left for the night. He's the only one in this office building, and he starts hearing things.
Okay.
And he looks out and he sees something in the sky. And here, I have a little clip I'm going to play you just because it's a really funny audio. So he goes back to typing the script. And then he hears Uniofts.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that either. I heard that.
It's so creepy how far away it is.
Yeah, right?
Okay, now I'm wide awake. I'm not asleep. I'm too wide awake.
So anyway, we're leading up to this big reveal at the end, and I won't spoil it. It's a fun episode. It's a quick little 20, 30-minute sitcom, and it's just a perfect example of how fun and sweet and innocent the Dick Van Dyke Show was.
Aww. I knew Clark would have a couple older selections than I would. So my next one is an episode of Family Guy.
Oh, there you go.
I like Family
There's a
Guy.
newer
This
episode.
is the episode called Brian and Stewie.
Yep.
It is I'm assuming everyone's seen it. Instead of saying it's an episode, it's the episode.
Yeah.
Where Brian and Stewie go to the bank to check Brian's P.O. box and they get locked in there overnight.
Yep.
There's funny stuff. It turns out to be a very deep, dramatic, thoughtful episode.
Yeah.
I won't get into why, but it's really something. And I just remember watching it and being so just, taken by it and so like wrapped up in it.
Enthralled.
Yeah, and going, wow, that was different. That was a very special Family Guy. And when I realized afterwards, I go, why do I feel so different? There were no cutaways.
Huh.
And every once in a while, this happens where I'm watching something and you just really hope whatever the episode is, you're like really into, and you're like, I hope they don't play the theme song at the end. That it just goes to those silent credits.
Yeah.
And that's what happened on this one.
Oh, interesting.
And it really did. The fact that there were no cutaways is something I had to work to figure out.
Yeah, I never noticed that.
Because it was such a different experience.
Yeah.
So, Family Guy, Brian and Stewie, look it up.
That's awesome. Okay. My next choice is actually a TV show from the 70s called Fawlty Towers.
Ooh.
It might be early 80s, but this was John Cleese after he left Monty Python. I mean, you never really leave Monty Python, but once the show ended, he
It's like the Yakuza.
Yeah, exactly. He went off to do another show, and that show was a 30-minute sitcom that took place in a hotel. It was like a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
And he and his wife were the owners / ran the proprietors of this bed and breakfast that it was in Torquay, England.
Yes.
And it is so funny. His wife is in it too. His wife actually plays the maid in the show.
Oh, his real life wife?
His real life wife.
Oh.
And the co-creator of the show.
Oh, gotcha, smatcha.
But the rest of the show is just hilarious. But there's one episode called Communication Problems. And if you really want to try out Fawlty Towers, you go for Communication Problems, because this episode is so funny. It's one thing. John Cleese is so good at being an asshole.
Yeah.
He's always been that guy that loves playing horrible assholes, and you like watching him play these horrible assholes. But it's so hilarious watching him, that character, come up against this older lady that just is so privileged and so filled with hate and she just despises anyone who comes around her, and nothing is ever right enough for her, and it's just a horrible human being. And to watch him play off of that is so fun. It's really fun, and it's really funny, and it's a fantastic taste of Faulty Towers if you wanted one.
Excellent. What's next up for me? Oh, Family Ties. We mentioned Family Ties a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just came up kind of randomly.
We're big Family Ties fans here.
We're big. It's the underlying current of this entire podcast.
I bet you've been together for a million years.
I
That's
know.
us.
Sha-la-la-la. Family Ties is a sitcom from the 80s. It was really great. It's not like a wonk, 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 wonk sitcom.
Right.
It was fairly realistic.
Yeah.
Hippie parents raising teenage kids.
Yep.
Michael J. Fox was kind of the breakout star of
Right.
it.
And that was the show, was that they were hippie parents, had these teenage kids, but the eldest teenage kid was super conservative Republican.
He loved Ronald Reagan,
Yeah.
and he was just like super, conservative Republican. Exactly.
Exactly.
And Michael J. Fox is an actor that always stuck out in my mind because of Family Ties. His character was so well drawn. I mean, they all were.
Yeah.
But he in particular, I just remember, would get setups for jokes, like his sister would say something and he's going to come back with like a zinger, but he would just stop for a second and the audience would be laughing
because they knew it was coming
about what they knew he was going to say.
Right.
And I was always really, as an aspiring actor, I was like, that's so awesome. He conveys it so much that he's getting the laugh before he even says anything.
Yeah.
So it was a funny show. It was a heartfelt show, but there was a very special episode. It's actually a two-parter called My Name is Alex.
Nice.
Very deep. It deals with the death of a friend of his in a car crash.
In the show.
Yes, sir. In the show. And how that affects everybody and how it affects him. There's a second part of it that he's talking to a therapist. You don't see the therapist. It's really just him talking to the camera, which you've got to think that this is a multi-camera sitcom.
Right.
Imagine if you were watching Seinfeld and then all of a sudden it was a 30-minute monologue.
Right.
But that was kind of serious.
Right.
God, I was just picturing like George doing a serious 30-minute. You're like,
exactly.
George Costanza. My name is George.
Here's Dr. Hibbert for 30 minutes.
Exactly. So it was very, you could hear a pin drop. It was it really was a very special episode. I remember the ads for it making it seem like, saying like, this is different.
Yeah.
And it's really stuck with me. Like, I think every once in a while, I just think, My Name is Alex, which is the title of it.
That's so interesting. All right, let's move on. My next one is a really fun show. It didn't last for very long. It was only on for like 6 or 7 episodes. And actually, this was the 4th episode, but they aired it first because it was so damn good. So the show is actually Clerks, based on the Kevin Smith show movie. This was an animated show called Clerks with the same characters as Jay and Silent Bob and Randall and Dante. But it's really wackier, crazier, funnier than Clerks was. So there's one episode, and I love the title of this episode because it's the title of the episode is A Dissertation on the American Justice System by People Who Have Never Been Inside a Courtroom, let alone know anything about the law, but have seen way too many legal dramas.
That's the title?
That's the title of the episode. So look for that episode. And then it's just a really, really funny episode where Jay slips and falls in the Quick Stop. And then he tries to sue Quick Stop, which is the little convenience store that Dante runs. And he tries to sue the Quick Stop. And right at the end, I don't want to spoil anything, but things go crazy and it turns into like this weird anime fever dream. It's just really fun to watch and very nonsensical and non sequitur and fun.
Excellent. I've never seen that.
It's really good.
I might have to
really
check
like
it out. My next one is King of the Hill.
Yes.
I really sat down and tried very hard to say, okay, LB, all 5 of yours can't be animated shows.
Yeah, I know. That was hard for me.
That was hard for Clark too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
my next is King of the Hill, which is a great, great show. In fact, when it was on, there would definitely, I'd say once a year, this is a true story, think like, I want to go to Arlen, Texas and meet them. And then I would remember they were not real at all, and I would be sad. That happened more than once, not while I was high. So the episode I've chosen is called Bill of Sales, and it is, it's kind of a random episode, but there's 2 things in it that stick out to me that I say all the time. I hear them in my head.
Okay.
And this episode is Peggy Hill gets involved in a pyramid scheme selling like nutritional products.
Right.
She gets them home and they open the box and they're like, oh, nutrition shakes this. And there's all these bars. And she's talking about it and how great it's going to be and how great she is. And Bobby Hill, the son, takes a bite of one of the bars and he goes, this doesn't taste like raspberry truffle at all. And Peggy says, well, honey, you must be eating it wrong. Which I say that all the time. You must be eating it wrong. So, but that's not even my favorite thing. My favorite line comes later in the episode. And it really sums up Hank Hill's character to me, who is so sweet, understanding, intuitive, intellectual, and also a repressed middle-aged man from Texas.
Right.
Who was raised by, a war veteran who didn't care for emotions.
Lost the lower half of his leg.
Exactly. They took my shins. So Clark's going to play a little, this is Peggy sells a lot. She takes Bill, a friend of Hank's, who's good at selling stuff, and they go to San Antonio for this pyramid scheme get together. And this is them coming home.
You must have confused him. Being dumped on is all Bill knows. First there was that childhood of his, then he joined the army, and then married that backbreaker Lenore. Well, I'm gonna go oil the bearings in your suitcase wheels. San Antonio dust contains a lot of silica.
Whenever I watch that episode, I always go back and listen to that twice. San Antonio dust contains a lot of silica. It's so specific. He knows how to keep things in order, which is to oil the wheels of the suitcase.
Right.
He's just been talking about emotional stuff. That line stuck. I mean, I don't know what year that was. What? 90 something?
Yeah, absolutely. 97, 90,
Whatever.
late 90s.
It just is in my head all the time. Just one of those, it's like we said, these aren't the best ones.
Right,
These aren't
right.
the Emmy winning ones.
Right.
These are the ones that just are with us.
Yeah.
So that is mine, Bill of Sales. And make sure to oil the ball bearings on your suitcase if you come home from Santa Monica, from San Antonio.
There you go. All right. Good. All right. Moving on to one of mine. I have picked one from Futurama.
I love Futurama.
A personal favorite of both of ours. Again, though, this is kind of dipping into the non-humorous category. As funny as Futurama is, it can be hilarious at times, but the episode Luck of the Fryrish is funny. It is. It has very funny moments. However, it is one of the most sweetest episodes of television I've ever seen in my life. The ending of this show brings me to tears. It's so incredibly sweet. And this is coming from somebody who is a single child. I never had a brother. This is an episode where Fry, who is, thrown in 1,000 years into the future, suddenly finds out that his brother from his original timeline back in 1999 actually ended up doing something with his life. And he thought that he took Fry's name, and he sees that he had a 7-leaf clover, and Fry gets furious because that was his 7-leaf clover. And it was supposed to give him all this extra luck. And Fry ended up getting stuck in the year 3000, or Yeah, 3,000.
Yeah, it was 3,000.
And his brother, lived his regular life and died. Anyway, the ending is just so amazingly sweet and heartfelt and touching. It was just, I had to throw it in here because I just love, anytime that episode is on, I will watch it.
Yeah. And at the time, I mean, there have been sitcoms and stuff that, take that route of like, oh, this is more serious and not necessarily sappy.
Right.
And then The Simpsons, which came before Futurama, as you know, did have absolute notes of just heartfelt love and family, and that, that underlying vibe of, it's wacky and it's crazy and it's a cartoon, but you're feeling this.
Right.
When Futurama did these episodes that were really emotional, it was a marked departure.
Yeah.
You didn't expect this kind of depth and this kind of emotion to come through, which is, I think, why they're doubly affecting.
Yeah, and a doubly is amazing.
Yes.
I love it. All
okay.
right.
Next,
your number 10.
My number 10 is an episode of Roseanne.
Oh, okay.
Now, for everyone who's less than 95 years old, I'm talking about the original Roseanne that was on in the 90s.
Yes.
And
late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And yes, Roseanne Barr might be a bit of a fruitcake to many of us right now. But back in the day, it was this big phenomenon of like this working class, middle class, white family.
Well, lower class white family.
Yeah. So that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And the episode that has always stuck with me is called Brain Dead Poet Society. And I found out today during my research that it was written by Joss Whedon.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I know. So this episode, and I tried to look for like actual synopsis so I would know, but from what I remember, Darlene had to write. Darlene is the daughter.
Right.
Roseanne is the mother.
Right.
There's other kids and blah, blah, blah.
Sarah Gilbert.
Sarah Gilbert.
Yeah.
She has to write a poem per school. Roseanne has been a writer, but she hasn't done that because she's had kids and gotten married and stuff. And I think I remember her showing Darlene some of her writing. And then it was Darlene had to write something for school. The teacher really liked it. She was supposed to perform it at the assembly. And she was like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want you there. She said to her mom, they have a big fight about it in the kitchen. And knowing what sitcoms are like, I was like, oh, she took one of her mom's poems and turned it in as her own. And she's going to get in trouble. And then it ends up, they go to the assembly and Darlene gets up and reads her poem. And it's not that sitcom-y thing that she has, stolen the poem and she's going to get in trouble. It's that she wrote a poem that was very deep and deeply personal. And she was embarrassed about it. And I'm going to read that poem.
Oh, you have the poem here?
Yes. It's called To Whom It Concerns. To whom it concerns, Darlene's work will be late. It fell on her pancakes and stuck to her plate. To whom it concerns, my mom made me write this, but I'm just a kid, so how could I fight this? To whom it concerns, I lost my assignment. Maybe I'll get lucky, solitary confinement. To whom it concerns, Darlene's great with a ball, but guys don't watch tomboys when they're cruising the hall. To whom it concerns, I just turned 13. Too short to be quarterback, too plain to be queen. To whom it concerns, I am not made of steel. When I get blindsided, my pain is quite real. I don't mean to squawk, but it just really burns. I just thought I'd mention it to whom it concerns.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And this is like a tomboy character and she's gruff and kind of wisecracking. She's a lot more like Roseanne.
Yeah.
And then, they just have her read this you get to see that there's like this deep side to her and she's vulnerable.
Well, what season was this? Do you know?
This was season 2, episode 10.
Okay, so that's an entire full first season and the first half of the second season where this character has been nothing but snarky.
Yeah.
Nothing. We never get much of an emotion from her other than snarkiness or bored or depressed. Like her character was kind of set in stone by this point, and it wasn't somebody that had a very deep emotional rich background.
Yeah, and then she hits us with this.
Wow.
And the end, and of course I'm still to the very last second thinking it's going to be like, how's she going to get punished for stealing the poem?
Right.
But it doesn't. And then after the episode just ends with Roseanne and Laurie Metcalf, who played her sister, just kind of like grabbing for tissues because they're crying because they weren't expecting that.
Yeah.
So that's always really, really stuck out. Especially too short to be quarterback, too plain to be queen. Because it's very poignant and but it's not like, I'm the poet of the universe.
Right.
It sounds like it's written by a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Maybe Joss Whedon.
But it was written by Joss Whedon.
Maybe it was written by Joss Whedon in his diary when he was 13. And he dug it out.
Possible.
So anyway, okay, that's the end of our 10.
Yeah, so now we can move on to the last half.
10 and a half you get. So here's the half. It's something that Clark and I both love.
Yeah.
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yay.
But we disagree on our favorite episodes.
That's right. So do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first.
All right. So my episode is called Pod People.
It's so good.
It's so good and it's so bad. It's basically an E.T. ripoff. Done somewhere in Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a foreign movie, but nobody can really tell what country it's from.
Yeah,
it's really
foreign.
weird.
They are
and
foreign.
Foreign, exactly. They're all white.
Yes.
They're all very white, but it's very foreign. But there's one part in it that I cannot stop laughing at. Every time I see it, I go nuts. There's a song. One of the main characters is a singer, and he's recording this song in the movie, and it's so horrible that they decide to mock it in the live action bits in between, and it sounds like this. You don't understand any lyrics. They're kind of just random words thrown together. And bees on pie. And then at the very end, this was a joke from the movie where they ask the guy, what do you think? And he turns and he says, it stinks. Exactly. So the thing was, it was such a funny moment. I loved that moment so much, but I thought it was so personal. But then Mystery Science Theater started touring live in person. And I went to one of the live tour shows, and at the show, they had one of the foam hands, like the #1 hand, but it's the OK symbol, which is what Joel just does. And it just says, it stinks, Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I am looking at this foam hand right now. It's awesome.
Yeah, I purchased this foam hand because it was so amazing. And it was a single joke from one episode of the show that was good enough to make merchandise about.
Excellent.
So what is your last one?
Well, I just also want to say that within this strange Pod People episode, it centers around a little alien named Trumpy.
That's right. Trumpy Dumpy.
And Trumpy is quite Alf-esque.
Yes, very much. It's as if somebody like took the Alf puppet and they said, all right, make it so that it's copyright free. And they changed like 15% of it.
Yeah. Well, no. Pod People was first.
That's true. Pod People was first.
Looked up.
But for the audience to understand,
yes,
he kind of looks like a 15% different Alf.
Yes, exactly. Or is Alf a 15% different him?
That's true. It's a different Trumpy.
So yeah, and when I looked it up, of course, I put in Trumpy, and nowadays I just brought up Trumpy the bear.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to dig a little deeper. So we decided on Mystery Science Theater for our half.
Yeah,
and then I'm like, and as soon as Clark picks his, I'm like, nope, Time of the Apes.
Yeah,
Time of the Apes. I mean, so many of them are so good and stuck directly into my heart. But Time of the Apes is basically a Planet of the Apes ripoff.
I don't care.
It's super cheesy.
Yeah.
It is Japanese, I think.
Yeah, Japanese
with
sci-fi.
Subtitles.
Yeah, it's I think the same studio that did a lot of the Gamera and the Godzilla movies, that kind of stuff.
It's just really funny and cheesy, and cheesier by far because of like the grown woman doing the voice of the small boy whose name is Tommy. And at some point during it, somebody says like, Tommy, you'll be late for school. And he goes, I don't care. And then the whole rest of the time it just comes up, I don't care. And then they do a live action bit like, why doesn't Tommy care? It's this whole thing. And that's what I loved about MST3K was like, they would take the littlest thing and just make it into a household name.
Yeah.
Well, my household, but
our households for sure.
So we're split. That's the half is that we both love MST3K, but we're split on the episode. And thank you for this. Was this 80 minutes?
Yeah, this is a long segment. But anyway, I hope you have some good recommendations out there so you can enjoy some television.
This has been another segment of LB and Clark's Top 10 and a Half. Bad Advice stars Lori Beth Denberg and Clark Crozer. The show is produced by me, Jeremy Balon, and part of the Seltzer Kings network. Our theme song is written and performed by Natty Ward. If you or someone you love is in need of some bad advice, you can submit your own question on our socials, all of which are Ask Lori Beth, or on our website at AskLoriBeth.com, or for a nostalgic twist, you can call 1-855-DENBERG. That's right, 1-855-336-2374, and leave your question there. Thanks for listening.